Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Week in ZA, the podcast where we dive into the world of software engineering over a fresh slice of pizza. I'm Kodad, here with my co-host Chad on the other side. Every week, we sit down with a guest from the industry to talk about culture, projects, and everything in between while eating some great food. Today's guest is Doug Durham. We are eating the Hawaiian 5-0. That's right.
Yep.
From Ramos Pizza. It's basically a Hawaiian plus cream cheese. So stick around to hear some great insights, share a laugh, and maybe leave a little bit hungry. Let's dig in.
All right, we always open with kind of like biggest mistake, but we've done this with you. You've been on the podcast before.
Was the mistake DPL?
The biggest mistake I made was being on this podcast the first time.
So it was a new one.
Updated.
Okay, that is a good one. No, what's some of your, this episode is we're going to focus a lot on the 15 years of DPL.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe if you could talk through some of your funniest moments for those 15 years of DPL, as opposed to your biggest mistake, which you have so many mistakes, it's kind of hard to fit that in 1 hour.
Yeah.
But if you can do some of your funnier moments.
Or a preview for the booth episode, we're going to ask everybody what they would do different if they could redo their software journey. So that might be a question you could answer too.
Oh, that one. Probably, yeah. Funniest moments?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Steve
Well-
had some good ones.
What's that?
Steve had some good, funny past memories and moments.
Of things he did or just funny memories, period?
Both.
One of my fondest memories, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but, and I don't know if you were involved with this, but it was the April Fool's where I came in that morning, and I was usually the first person in the morning, I'm a morning person, I'm often here early, and they had filled up a bunch of clear glasses,
That was
clear
Norman
cups. But and it was probably, I'm betting that office was 10 feet by 15 feet, so 150 square feet of glasses, all side by side, the entire floor covered glasses, and all of them about 2/3 full with water.
Yep.
So, and then I said that is pretty freaking clever, but I thought I'm gonna get to my desk, which was on the far side of the room, and just act like nothing's changed. I'm just gonna sit there and work and
Go on with it.
And go on with it. And so I was able to crawl over and kind of find my way across the wall and up above things and sat on my chair. I didn't realize it, but Ben Rush was videotaping me do this. Yeah. And then he created a video on YouTube of me doing that to the Mission Impossible theme. I thought that was great. I couldn't find that the other day, by the way. Yeah. I'm talking to our cameraman. I'm wondering if he can locate that for me. Our producer. Yeah.
Yeah, Russ is getting famous.
There was probably, we had a lot of laughs. We still have a lot of laughs. I'm trying to remember. Help me with that. What's the most embarrassing thing you remember that
most
involved
embarrassing that involved you? That was a really good one. That's one of my favorites. Everybody loved that one. We one time did, we sometimes have had cheese balls out and got people cheese balled. We had that poor professor that was working out of our office. Remember that?
I just sent him an email just 10
Really?
minutes ago. Kevin Cole.
And the poor guy working there, and we're trying to cheese ball on April 1st, obviously DPL employees, not thinking we were going to get some random person that just happens to be at our office that day with cheese balls.
I think he thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
I think he felt like he was part of the organization.
So that was that's one that always comes into my mind.
There's a bunch of things I did that I didn't see myself ever doing, and that, were struggles I can think of that I got talked into doing that TEDx talk,
Oh yeah.
which is like the hardest thing. Memorizing I don't know, it couldn't have been more than a 10-minute speech. But 10 minutes doesn't seem like long until you're up there.
You didn't have a teleprompter for that?
No.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that was the deal, is that with TEDx, you're out there, they work with you quite a bit to do this. And I thought the topic was fun, and I enjoyed that. But I had my kids were at home, and I sent them away for a weekend until I spent the whole weekend memorizing that thing. I was like, that's all I did all weekend until I had that down. And then I went and did it, and you can look this up, because some of the other people who participated in that particular TEDx Lincoln used 3x5 cards. I'm like, I worked all that. I think it turned out better because it was memorized. Most of the people had their talks memorized, but that was, I don't think that was it wasn't necessarily funny, but
That'd be a lot of stress.
Sometimes I said yes too easily. You asked me a question. You said another thing we could talk about, and you said we could
What
also
would-
talk
what would
about what was the
change?
thing. Oh, what would I change about my
Yeah.
software journey?
Yeah. Or what would you tell your younger self as you entered the industry?
You know, I
Besides, like,
I actually-
invest in XYZ.
actually wrote a blog post about what I would tell my. It was one of the first ones I ever wrote. So, as I think we talked about last time on our previous episode, I don't have any sort of formal education in software development, and I've gone back and forth on whether that's an asset and a liability. I think it's a little bit of both. I think as I get kind of heading towards the twilight of my career, I think it's been more of an asset for me than a liability that I didn't have that. But I worked really hard to try to compensate for that. I was never going to be able to get to the level of somebody like yourself, who you have a master's degree in computer science, right?
Yeah.
I came to a realization pretty early on. I was never going to kind of understand computing foundations to the level that somebody like you would understand that. And I just kind of got comfortable with that and found other ways to contribute where I felt like I was playing to my strengths. But one of the things that I think I've had conversations with more young people about, so thinking about what would I tell myself 25 years ago, I think number one would be it's okay to not have a plan. Sometimes we, for whatever reason, feel like things have to be planned out. Like we see a lot of kids coming out of college that put a lot of pressure on themselves to make that right decision about their first job. And because somehow that's going to dictate success of their career. I think it has little bearing on that. I'm not saying no bearing, and I'm sure some jobs you take are critical to getting to a specific job down the road. But if you're open-minded about what you could do and you're just kind of interested in solving problems and things like that, that first job probably, I would look at it and say, is this something that I find interesting? Are there interesting problems to solve here? And worry less about, whether or not it's offering me the most amount of money, or it's got a certain brand associated with it or something like that. Because you get into things, if you just keep your kind of eyes and ears open for things that interest you, and entertain the possibility that I might change directions multiple times in my career, I think you'll come out okay. I look at you. You obviously didn't come out of high school thinking you were going to write software. You did, because you did.
Well, I did, but then I dropped out.
Oh, okay. Well, in any
I was gonna
event, you
do video
pursued
games or
another
something.
career,
Yeah.
and you obviously were keeping your eyes open. You took advantage of some opportunities in your teaching role
Yep.
to be able to get more involved in technology and things like that. So I'm envisioning that you were probably always kind of on the lookout for what are some things that might interest me.
Yep.
Because it's a real shame, I think, if you get into your career and you're working and things like that, and you're seeing your career as a job, and I think we might have talked about this last time too.
We bumped into it a little bit.
That I'm lucky to say that everything I've done, and it's been all over the place, in terms of what I've done, the business domains, the roles I've had. I've always felt like what I did in my career was part of who I was. It was part of my identity, and so I didn't really distinguish between my work life and my personal life. They were merged and things like that in a way that made it very easy for me to kind of, continue to be engaged on both sides without having to draw distinctions between the two. I'm not saying I always, was checking email at dinner, or instead of reading a book to my kids, I was working on something. There's a way to kind of work that out in your life. I think we spend too much time talking about work-life balance as this distinct, division between my work life and my personal life. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think it then promotes this idea that my work life is a job. It's a means to an end, and that's a shame. I mean, you can survive and obviously make a living doing that way, but I don't think it's as fulfilling to think about your career that way. Now, so if you're in a career where you feel like I don't enjoy what I'm doing, so it is more like a job, be open to ideas and opportunities to do something else.
I mean, kind of hitting on, and I'm not all the way through it, so no spoilers, like Severance, even there they're trying to be very hard delineation between those. It's not a great world.
I started it all, so no spoilers.
Okay.
It's on my list.
It's not, but they're very. You don't even know what happens on the other side of the world. I think no one wants that. And it's easier today too, I think, to do other things at other times too, because you can be more remote. It's a little easier to problem solve in different times and work different things, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
It used to be like we had a big desktop somewhere, and if you weren't on the desktop, you were there. So it's a little easier now to jump online at night and do something. And
you're someone who I would say what you do is part of it identifies who you are, and I think that translates to you spend a lot of your discretionary time on things that are related to what we're doing because you enjoy doing that. And I don't think you probably feel like you've shortchanged your children or your
they're probably
your family
happier
life
when
or
I'm not around. They're probably making finally Dad's looking at a computer.
It's kind of a pet peeve of mine that we seem to have gotten to this point in our culture where it's that there's this outside pressure that there's this division of your life. It's unfortunate. I think people will regret that.
I think the other one too, and it helps people a lot, is if you really enjoy jumping in and learning things. I think one thing that's nice about our field, other fields like sometimes has a lot of cost outlay, to learn or to do something. You're like, you have to invest a lot just to like do some experiment or do something. In software, usually you just need literally a computer and you can do most of what you want to do.
Yeah.
And there's counterexamples, I'm sure, where you want to do huge data processing of something, you're probably going to run into some cost, but in general, you can do almost everything by yourself. So you can always kind of run that experiment and learn something if you want, which I always think is kind of fun.
Yeah. Small toolkit.
Yeah.
Hey, last time we talked about handles.
Yeah.
And I got to plug Ramos. They include handle sauce.
Yes, they do have handle sauce. They make a great crust too. I mean, just
It's probably the best part.
You mean
about
the handle?
pizzas.
Well,
Yes,
the crust
it-
is the part underneath, but the
Yeah.
part of the crust that is the handle, you have something to do with
yeah,
it.
the
now.
handle sauce. We haven't really talked the pizza
It's
at all.
trending.
Yeah,
handle
we got to rate
sauce.
the handle pizza.
Yeah.
Rate the pie.
And this is the Hawaii 5-0.
Yep.
Half of it has cream cheese, half of it does not. I had a cream cheese piece, which is the default.
Sure.
I thought it was pretty good. Again, crust is always great there, but Doug will have to give us the first rating on a 1 to 10 scale. I guess we've had no zeros. I don't know what that would be, but
One bite, can't finish it. Smell it, can't eat it.
yeah.
What's the highest rating you've ever gotten?
On this show,
Are you talking Chad as a human being?
no, I think our highest rating is you gave a 9 point something.
A
to-
9.3 to the Ramos pepperoni cream cheese. Nope.
Yeah.
A 9.5 to the Lazari's Randy Ross. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Although we've had a lot of good Ramos pizza.
Yeah, we have.
Randy Ross is still my favorite, I think.
I'm giving it a 7.5. It's good.
7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I'm gonna go a 6. It's probably my lowest of the Ramos so far. Because I do love them. I think they have a great crust. Pineapple, I love pineapple. But always on pieces, it's okay. It's not my favorite.
You're a pineapple on pizza is a no-no kind of person?
No, I'll eat it. Like I would easily eat a lot of pineapple on pizza, but it's not my favorite. Like we did the barbecue ones from them. I prefer some of those flavors a little bit.
When you're going to put sweet on a pizza, I feel like you have to balance it with a pretty good salt.
Yeah.
The sweet and savory have to be
Yeah.
in balance. When you put pineapple on a pizza, you're risking the fact that the pineapple is what
Kind of a little too sweet.
it's over.
Yeah.
That's what you're tasting. You're biting into a piece of pineapple, which I don't mind it, but it's like, and I don't know exactly how you do it, but I think you need to balance that pretty good with
Yeah.
a little bit of the
Yeah, if the ham was
salt, a little more cured
saltier,
ham or something like
yeah.
that, or sausage or something
I think
like that.
if you would have put more of the Canadian bacon or the ham or whatever, maybe that would have been the offset I needed.
Yeah,
a little
maybe.
more salt.
Yeah, maybe less pineapple. Because
Yeah.
look at there's a whole bunch of pineapple right there.
No, yeah, maybe
You
just
probably
less
only
pineapple.
need 2 or 3 pineapples per slice. Well, we're really getting into it. I hadn't really analyzed a pineapple pizza to this.
That's what we
level
do
of
on the
detail.
show. Is
Yeah.
we're kind of pizza professionals right now.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with the 7.5 as well.
Okay.
Looking up and down my ratings, like I'd keep eating. It's a good.
Oh
pizza.
yeah, it's a good pizza. I have no objection.
But I think it's mostly because the foundation's always so good. See the scores.
Do you have my rating from what we had first?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we have them all. It's actually on the website. There's a one there. I'm actually going to build another page into it where you
Which
can see
one
all
was
these.
mine?
The
It wasn't
IS
the
Supreme,
valve. I gave it an 8.5.
8.5.
There you go.
Generous.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guests
I-
are pretty generous with their scores.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're not the professional critics that we are.
yeah.
And we've adjusted some.
I
We
still
just-
have to eat at these places, you know. I don't
Yeah.
want to like. I know this podcast carries a lot of weight in terms
Yeah.
of the decisions our consumers of Lincoln are making in terms of where they're going to go get their pizza.
I'm assuming this is like when people visit. What we're going to do, we're going to add affiliate links. You come to our website,
This is called a side trip.
and we will help you pick a pizza, and then we'll send you an affiliate. We'll see if we can get affiliate links so we can make like a penny per pizza.
You might start rating the pizzas higher.
Yeah.
Or they fill out a survey and then we help them figure out which one they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
We could talk about what we're doing for the Nebraska Tech Collaborative in that assessment thing.
Oh yeah.
We should absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Should scene and get more pie first.
All right. Scene.
I just double dip. But you know, when I dip, I never dip the part I bit.
Yeah, you always dip the outsides. Yeah.
That's not totally true because I probably dip. upside down.
It's fine. The
I think it's fine.
yeah.
I mean,
There's
I'll eat food off the floor. You've probably seen me do it.
I have seen Doug eat food off the floor. Seinfeld always comes up. There's an episode of Seinfeld. George double dips chips, and
Yeah.
he gets everybody upset about it.
At the funeral.
Yeah, and there's an episode
I get these references now.
someone brought up today. As a VJJ this morning, and someone was talking about the only reason they woke up today and did VJJ so they can go home and take a nap.
Not from Seinfeld?
There's an episode where he goes like, sometimes the only reason getting out of bed in the morning is to take a good nap,
Naps are great.
which is very much a George behavior.
Oh yeah, because he nap at the office.
Yeah.
I can't wait to. So I don't remember what it was for. It might have been for that TEDx thing. Now that I'm thinking about it. They asked me some background information. One question they asked me, "What is my favorite place in Lincoln?" And I think where they were going for was, my favorite place of entertainment or favorite restaurant or something like that. And I thought about this, and I was like, the way I approach it, and I told them this, I said, I'm going to tell you if I could be anywhere in Lincoln, where would I choose first? And it would be my back porch.
Yeah. I'd say a lot of people should be.
And I love sleeping out on that back porch. That is, like, especially in the middle of summer when it's hot out. I will go out there in the middle of the afternoon and lay down. And we got Outer makes furniture, kind of nice, really good outside furniture. It was one of these. It was one of these deals where the Shark Tank? They were one of the Shark Tank things.
Sure.
So this was one of our COVID purchases. We bought some really nice outdoor furniture, and I go out there and lay down, and it is. I mean, right now I'm just thinking about that because it was kind of chilly this morning. But the hotter, the better. If it's like 90 degrees, I'm out there
Do you
taking
like
a
the
nap
heat?
in the middle of the Saturday afternoon. It is the best.
You have
I
a
love
fan
it.
out there too?
Yeah, I can put a fan. It's generally since it
shady.
faces south.
In the shade.
I'm in the shade. I would never sleep out in the sun. It's in the shade and it faces south. So in the summer you get a pretty consistent breeze
Okay.
out there. But if there isn't, I am putting the fan on primarily just to deal with the insects.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of insect problems, but if you get stillness, you're going to have something annoying flying around you probably. So
Yeah, the mosquitoes are always a problem.
yeah, flies. Yeah. Anyway, that is that is the best. And then this summer I was like, man, I need to kind of upgrade my experience out there. I think you'd done something to your deck, put a TV out there. I'm like, I'm going to put a TV out there. So I went and got, oh man, I should know, OLED, right? Because it's really high contrast. So I paid a little bit extra for the same, it's a little more expensive TV, but outside you can see it when there's in daylight. And I thought, how am I going to mount this thing out here? And then it occurred to me, I'm going to put it on a rolling stand. And so now I can roll it outside, and I can roll it inside and watch it somewhere else. I actually stole that idea from a buddy down in Florida, and from seeing him around the office here. So
Just don't want to build.
not sure how I got on that topic.
Favorite place?
We're talking favorite place.
Oh, that was
napping.
me. That was me. Oh, we were talking napping.
We're talking napping.
Yeah.
That's what got me thinking about my favorite place. Yeah.
I put a hammock out on my back patio, and we got a bunch of shady trees out there, and
Yours is really shady.
just sit on that hammock and nap out there, let the dogs run around and everything. It's great.
I love sleeping outside. But I love sleeping outside on a nice padded. My tent
Ground.
sleeping days are are done. I've done enough of that.
I sleep in the back of my truck, so I kind of skipped that phase of doing a lot of sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, it still doesn't sound very fun. But
Being outside's fun.
yeah, being outside is fun. I agree there.
I have a bed in the back of the truck,
Yeah,
so
so it's not.
I'm not really roughing it.
But we're going to talk the survey.
Well,
Cool.
Yeah.
first I got to deal with my handle.
He's going to deal with the
Fortunately,
handle.
I have
Handle sauce.
handle sauce.
Your handle sauce, I didn't try any. It actually looks pretty good.
It's solid. I haven't really thought about doing handle sauce reviews. Maybe that's what we should be doing.
I think Papa John's maybe has the best handle sauce.
I do.
Theirs is like the default. Like,
I really
love
liked
those.
it.
I'd have a hard time differentiating between this and Papa John's.
And then it's probably really good. Then.
I will give 10 a score of 10 to the first one that actually changes the name on the label to handle sauce. I don't care what it tastes like,
As long as it's okay.
as long as it's advertised as handle sauce.
I mean, if you Google handle sauce, do you get anything?
I don't know if I want to Google that.
The handle sauce episode.
I don't know what's going to come up. We won't Google this on this program. Family friendly.
So, for those who are not aware of the Nebraska Tech Collaborative, this is a coalition of Nebraska kind of software technology industry companies and not just software companies, but companies that use software as a competitive advantage. So, they got together in 2020. The idea was to come together and collaborate as both private companies as well as public institutions like the universities and the chambers of commerce, and just bring everybody together to help deal with the tech talent shortage in Nebraska, to try to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support the technology ecosystem here. And so Mike Dunlap, the CEO of Nelnet, and James Blackledge, the CEO of Mutual of Omaha, pulled a bunch of people together at Platte River State, no, not Platte River, but Mahoney State Park.
Is it Mahoney or is it the Sac Museum?
Well, it's right, whatever's right next to the Sac Museum. I think that's Mahoney State Park. We were there.
Yeah.
At the time, I think even the governor showed up there. There was, but I guess you're right. We first met at the Sac Museum, but then the main kickoff.
Oh, okay.
In any event, got a lot of traction with a lot of people, and now we're 6 years into this, and every year. So some of the things that have come out of this Nebraska Tech Collaborative is really playing a driving force for some legislation that happened a couple years ago that changed the high school graduation requirements in Nebraska to require a computer science class in order to graduate. Now, I think that goes into effect here in the next year or two.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. We were last in the country in terms of our support of high school students and computing. And now, with that requirement, it puts us really high in the country, especially once it gets in place, right? So that's the sort of thing, trying to get kids, the whole idea behind that was to get kids to understand what it means to work in a computing field so that they would choose that as a educational path coming out of high school. So the NTC is run out of Exarban, which is focused on workforce development out of Omaha. Funny, I grew up in Omaha, went to Exarban events because they used to have an arena there. Yeah. It wasn't until I was an adult before I realized that Exarban was just Nebraska spelled backwards.
It's like the first thing I learned.
How's
about
that
Exarban.
for embarrassing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I have no justification.
There's someone that'll be watching this and goes, "Oh,
yeah,
just figured it out."
What an idiot! Why are you listening to this guy?
No, I mean someone else just figured it out right now.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, "Oh my word!"
Yeah, they're still probably younger than I was when I figured it out. So this year, so each year they have some ongoing initiatives kind of driving it. Some of it's data collection, some of it's working with internships, and just they have a multi-pronged approach to trying to help improve the tech readiness of our human capital here to work in the industry, in the computing industry. And so one of the initiatives this year is to be more deliberate about identifying gaps in skills of individuals within the workforce so that we can go back to educational institutions like universities and other training education companies to help address those needs. Because we've often talked about, in generalities about there's these skills gaps, but we've never objectively quantified what they were and how prevalent they were. And so that is something that Don't Panic Labs has taken the lead in terms of developing an assessment that we can give out to various roles. The first one we're working on is for software engineers. But we're imagining that we'll have one for project managers, for QA people.
That would have been awesome.
Maybe for
Not
UI
confusing.
UX people.
Business
Maybe
analysts.
for automation engineers, DevOps type people.
Yeah.
So we'll have, and we're basing it on parsing all of the content of the software engineering body of knowledge, which is not some abstract thing. It is something that is produced and updated by IEEE, which is, if you go out and just Google SWEBOK, SWEBOK, you should be pretty quickly come across a link to where that's located on some IEEE website. Version 4 is the latest one, just came out last year. But it has about 18 different knowledge areas that covers the entire gambit of software engineering topics. And so we're taking those, we're going through all that, and we're trying to pull out what are the things that are most relevant for software engineers. And we're going to have individuals, the goal is to have 45 companies have their software developer employees each take this assessment, which should give us a pretty good idea of where the skills gaps are. And then we'll align those skills gaps with what the organizations feel are their most pressing needs. We have a most pressing need to convert our, to enhance our agile and lean approaches to project management, or our architecture and design, or
Testing.
mobile, whatever
Testing,
it is. We can kind of line those things up and see of all those gaps which are the most critical to the needs of the people in Nebraska. We're not going to be able to address all the gaps. I'm predicting there'll be a lot of gaps.
Yeah.
Because the body of knowledge is very broad, but there's some subset of those that are most critical to the companies in Nebraska, and then we will bring that together, synthesize that, and provide some guidance for University of Nebraska, Bellevue University, University of Nebraska Omaha, Doane, as well as other educational organizations that can build content to help address that. So this is a multi-year project. This year, the whole goal is to get people assessed and maybe identify the priorities of those skills gaps. And next year will be maybe putting more of that into action.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's about a lot. It's a lot of questions. Do you know how many questions it is? Because some of the feedback I'm getting is that's a lot of questions.
Did we break 100?
I don't think we did. I'll have to go back and look.
Maybe
It might be 100, but I've taken longer surveys before.
I mean, it's past the number of hands and or fingers and toes, so it's getting up there.
That's
Chad
for
can't
sure.
count that high. With
Yeah, I
the
can't
shoes
count that high anymore.
Are you seeing, or are you kind of predicting that we're going to see gaps that will kind of, I don't know how to word this. Do you think we're going to be able to find things that we could introduce into lower education programs, like at that high school level, to kind of get ahead of some of these issues that like if we keep seeing the same things over and over and over, and we find out that there's this fundamental lack of education early on, do you think that's something we could influence down to that level? Speaking of the Nebraska graduation requirements changing?
I'm not very optimistic about that.
Think so?
Really, I think the main benefit of the high school graduation requirement is that it exposes everyone to computing as a tool within business and within their adult life. Because obviously computing and computational activities is affecting every single industry, right? Mark Andreessen in 2011 says software's eating the world. It's good. There's not an industry out there that isn't impacted by computing, right? And so I think one of the main goals is to get students to have a working knowledge of what that looks like,
Sure.
and how important it is. From our industry standpoint, it also gives those students some idea of what a career in that could look like. It
Right.
probably is not going to prepare them for that career,
No.
but it'll steer them to that next stage, because there's a lot of data that supports, I might have some of these numbers wrong, but I think it's fairly accurate that young ladies in our career field is very void of a lot of young ladies or underrepresented minorities, which means that our pool of candidates to get into this industry, we've halved it, right? This is not about DEI or anything as much as is, hey, we have 300 million people in this country. If we're going to say this industry is only appropriate for half of them, now you're really limited the amount of people in there. There's all kinds of data support that diverse teams and things like that are better at problem solving too. But so young ladies are, I think, 9 times more likely to choose a career in computing if they've taken a computer science course in high school, and underrepresented minorities, I think, are 7 times more likely. That's pretty
a huge
significant.
change.
That's
It's
a
a huge
huge.
change.
And I think part of it is growing up, we tend to pick career fields where we're somewhat knowledgeable of, right? Not exclusively. I didn't know anything that an electrical engineer did. I did. I think we talked about this last time.
They didn't require foreign language.
It sounded exotic, and it didn't require a foreign language. Those are very valid reasons for choosing that career field.
Yeah.
But a lot of people a lot of high school kids struggle with what they want to do, and so what do they fall back on? Those career fields that they're aware of. Well, I'm going to be a mechanic, or I'm going to be a nurse, or I'm going to be a teacher, right? Or I'm going to be something where they see it on TV or they experience it firsthand. Nobody really knows what a software developer does.
Yeah.
They see the product of it, but they don't really know what a day in a life is, and probably they have a misconception of it. Because their image, this prototype that they might get from shows like Silicon Valley and things like that, is some person with some social deficiencies sitting at a computer in a basement somewhere all day, 8 hours a day. And I'll be honest with you, very few people in this world want to sit at a computer all day.
Yeah.
And how much do you sit at a computer all day?
Me?
Yes.
Less than I used to.
Yeah. If you had to guess, how much time do you spend during the day sitting in front of your computer at your desk?
Probably, that's a good question. Let's run around. Probably like 3 to 5 hours. A normal day.
So half your day, the other half of your day is probably working with somebody on a problem.
Yeah, standing next to somebody and looking at theirs and
Yep. Or
Talking
at a
about it.
whiteboard, you're brainstorming something or something like that. So anyway, that's giving them exposure to what it might be like, the types of problems you can solve and things like that, to try to get them interested in that.
scene.
Yep, scene.
Although we don't have more pizza.
Yeah.
How many scenes do you have? We've been going for 40 minutes.
That's probably good. You want to wrap it up?
We can wrap it.
Yeah.
Especially
Wait, actually,
since they've
we
heard
need a
of me.
pizza recommendation from you before we leave, though.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Who's next?
So we did change the format a little
Abby.
bit. Yeah, probably Abby. But in season 2, we're trying to do everything from Ramos.
Oh,
So this is like the 7th or 8th pizza we've had.
Oh yeah,
Ramos
we can
this
get you the
season.
list of the
give me the
pizzas.
menu. I'll be able to do that. Are they sponsoring the show?
No, they should be.
Yeah, they should be.
Don't actually order a pizza. Or order now. I think I can get the menu from there.
Why is it the companies have made it so hard to
You know,
just look at their menu?
what's going on is every one of these
Everything on the
application, every one of these has done the thing that is sensible, right? They use somebody else's like online menu thing
Yeah, use
to place
DoorDash
their
or
orders.
something.
But the problem is you get a very mediocre experience on all of them. There's almost none of them that are like, oh, that's really good.
That works now, though. For a while, their site didn't work. You had to call.
Yeah. Like some of them, like Papa John's, the big name companies, Domino's, have obviously built some of their own software. I think it's a little better.
Domino's is a good site.
Yeah, Domino's is.
Status tracking and
Yeah.
the GPS in the cars and stuff. That's really good.
Have you done the kitchen sink or the garbage can?
No,
No, what is it?
it's whatever they want.
Pizza is piled high with everything but the kitchen sink.
All right.
It's just it comes out different every time from what I've heard.
Is that right? Not available at a mini pizza. They also have mac and cheese. The problem is that's Alfredo sauce. I don't want to do an Alfredo sauce.
Yeah.
Have you done the barbecue brisket?
Oh yeah, that
We
was
did
good.
with,
Because there is Ramos still got the
Busters?
Busters?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's got to be good.
It was pretty good.
Though we didn't do that one with cream cheese and jalapenos.
You wanted to add that because that's called something else, right?
A heart attack or something like that.
The heart attack.
I don't see that. They have a Philly steak, but also Alfredo sauce.
Yeah. I'm with you on the Alfredo. I don't know.
Here's a Kane's favorite. That's also Alfredo. Why did they do that? Okay, I got to go with garbage can.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we don't really know what we're going to get.
I want to try it. Yep. I'll have to watch. I guess I'll have to watch this weekend's.
Yeah, you have to watch that episode to find out. It's good.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in to another good episode. Next week we should have Abby on.
Yes.
Eat the garbage can pizza.
I hope she.
So we were videotaping that whole thing?
Yes,
Were
the
I talking
whole
about
thing.
that? Okay.
Yeah,
Garbage pan pizza with extra
Garbage.
handle sauce. Make sure you got the extra handle sauce.
Oh yeah. All. If we just keep using that term enough, maybe someone will call theirs handle sauce.
I would
Just a
actually
matter of
really
time.
like- Their breadsticks are just their pizza dough.
Yeah.
So if you like their dough, you'd like their breadsticks.
Yeah, breadsticks
That's
doesn't
just
have a handle.
It is a handle.
It is
You're
a
eating
handle.
It's
handles.
not a handle.
It's like someone eats the pizza and puts it back,
It's true.
then you're eating people's leftover handles
If you go to grab that piece of pizza, how are you going to grab it?
from the handle.
From the
Right.
pointy
If
end.
you're going to grab a
obviously.
breadstick, how are you going to? What part of the breadstick do you grab?
The whole thing's a handle.
Yeah, it's not a handle. It's just a breadstick.
Like
Okay.
Waterboy, which part of the snake I'm about to eat? Snakes ain't really got parts, but probably his knee. Leave a comment below what you think about pizza handles. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think that's the only comment I have. Thank you again, Russ, for shooting and getting our audio and video here, making us look good. Well,
Or as good as you can.
making this side look good.
Make me look smart,
You can't
Russ.
fix Chad very much. And catching some good audio. Tune in next week. Goodbye.
Yeah.
That's it. A discussion was recently had
Why is it just me up here?
because we zoom in on you.
True story.
Yeah.
We started this app like episode 2 or 3.
Must have been after me.
Well,
It was episode 2.
previously it was like Shauna or somebody's significant other would be sitting.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
You did Shauna Dorsey or Shauna Durham?
Shauna Durham.
Shauna Durham did a This Week in За.
We have some people that have given a
She
little
did
bit
the
of
after
content.
thing. I
And
don't think she made the episode, but
Yeah, we haven't.
Oh,
I
she
wanna
did the after
compile
thing.
all of those into one thing. That's a whole separate. Yeah.
Okay.
a discussion was recently had about what qualifies as a sport.
Oh no.
But there was a new distinction which I think is very valid. So the idea came up that unless you're playing something where somebody's trying to stop you from doing the thing, it's not really a sport, which would disqualify things like golf,
That seems arbitrary.
darts, and pool. Well, pool, you can hit the balls in a way that will stop them, but
Yeah.
so
But
what do you think about that? Because I think that's a pretty good idea.
I
don't
feel
think
like-
golf's a sport anymore.
I feel like it's a. Yeah, I feel like you use that as a way to divide sports into further characteristics that might organize them. But it seems arbitrary. Why not say it's not a sport unless it has a ball? You know, so it feels like an arbitrary requirement for it to be a sport.
I mean, aren't
But you
all
could-
rules of
you could-
competitions arbitrary?
What's that?
Aren't all rules?
That's what I'm
arbitrary?
trying to. That's why I'm trying to get away from that.
So what
That's
is a
exactly
sport?
right. What?
What is a sport? You have opinions on this?
I feel like I was the guy who defined it.
We redefined it.
You can't redefine it.
Can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Right? A sport is a competition, right? So you can't have a sport if there's only one person competing, right? So it's a competition.
Like golf.
You have more than one person competing in
If I go
golf.
out I'm on my own, I'm not competing.
You're not. You're not.
I'm walking the wall.
Yeah.
At some point during this video, you guys are gonna get killed.
Yeah. There's.
Glad it's on video.
You know,
It'll be good for the trial.
We're talking about a sport, right? So not not the activities related to the sport.
Sure.
So the outcome has to be objectively measured,
Okay.
right? There has to be some physical requirement to it. So chess is objectively measured, but it's not a sport, right? Because I could have a mechanical device move the pieces for me. I don't have to use anything but my mind in chess, right? In my
I'm
voice.
assuming you're considering racing still a sport though,
Racing?
like F1.
Well, yeah, it's objectively. How do you decide the winner of an F1 race?
But then, like I was more questioning it related to the movement. You know, because you.
Oh yeah, it is it physically draining
Oh, yeah.
to race
Oh,
F1.
yeah.
So one clue that you're not dealing with a sport is when you have people who are observing the sport and using some judgment. So judges. If you've got judges, it's probably not a sport. If you have to look at it and say, okay, we have 3 judges here. This judge thinks this person won. Jeff won. These 2 judges think Chad won. Okay, that now the outcome is based upon somebody's subjective assessment.
So up until this year, baseball was not a sport,
Baseball's a sport,
but the ump was subjected
He's an
to
umpire.
balls and strikes,
right? But he's enforcing the rules of the game.
but they're not good at it.
Well, that doesn't matter. There's always human error. There's always human error when it comes to refereeing. You know, a basketball referee doesn't call every foul either. You know, so you can have referees, but you can't have in baseball. You don't have 3 judges sitting up there saying whether that guy scored the run or not.
So as long as you've got one person saying like, no, that's it for this one.
Yeah, you have referees that are enforcing the rules of the game. They're not determining the score of the game.
But if they have rules defined on how they decide the winner, still doesn't count.
Give me an example of what that might look like.
Gymnastics or diving or something. Like
Gymnastics is not a sport. They're trying to get close to it. They're trying to mathematically, but they still have judges. The Russian judge gave them 9.5, and the Swiss judge gave them 9.0. Diving's another one. It's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. It's very athletic.
What if it's just one judge,
It's still subjective.
but then it's baseball?
The outcome is baseball's not subjective. Baseball. It'd be any sport. NFL.
Or NFL, yeah.
No, those are referees. Those are people who are there to enforce the rules of the game. Right?
So if they say like you lose 1 point if the tuck doesn't meet this requirement, and that's how they determine the score, and they could theoretically like review it, then you would say it's not sport, because then there's enforcing the
Give me an
rules.
example of that.
Diving.
Oh, diving. Yeah, actually, they're trying to do that.
Yeah. So they're
Right.
trying to make it more in line with.
Right. If you could inject a computer vision algorithm
Oh sure.
that could watch gymnastics, watch diving, and apply the rules and scoring methodologies of that, you could convince me that's a sport.
Computer vision could have a big value in both of those two.
Sure.
Well, I mean, they're adding
It might be
stuff like
tougher in boxing, but boxing could be a sport if you fight to a knockout.
that. You don't think boxing is a sport?
Not unless you fight to a knockout or a submission. Boxing's the classic split decision. You ever heard of that? Split decision?
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying.
That means one judge decided one boxer won, the other judges thought the other boxer won. How could that be?
Does that still happen a lot these days?
It happens.
It probably does in boxing. I don't know if it happens in
It happens in MMA.
MMA.
I was just saying that the same.
Yeah, they actually have like weird situations. Sometimes you can have two where you get like a ref with a draw, or one ref that scores it even because they score each round,
Right.
and they can score it even, and you can have one ref each side. You can actually end up with a draw.
Huh.
And-
Interesting. So once we apply or find a way to apply the rules evenly across the thing, then a lot of these that you're kind of on the fence, or people are on the fence, then.
Could be sports.
I always felt MMA needs to switch, in my opinion. And I actually wrote a program. I think I even did some blog posts on this. To use significant strikes plus so many points for a takedown or knockdown.
Sure.
So it becomes just pure math.
Yeah.
And you could have a scoreboard. Because I think it makes it more like wrestling.
Yeah.
Because there does become a point where
Yeah.
someone they kind of stall at the end, but if one person knew they were behind by 8 points, they're going to do something stupid to try to make up those 8 points. at the
Yeah.
last hit.
This isn't somehow I'm on some sort of mission to eliminate certain things from being a sport.
Oh, I heard you were writing a new book on.
No. It wouldn't even need a book. I just need about 2 paragraphs of a blog post. So
Hey, here's your soapbox.
I do think they're using some computer vision and stuff. You might be able to get certain things like more dialed in that would help.
you can do that with diving. You can do that with gymnastics.
With football this year, aren't they? Or NFL? Or is it like CFL or something? They're introducing more vision systems around the stadium to
Could
track
be.
the ball and everything. So they'll get like the spot of the ball.
D-
Yeah,
in
they're
ba-
the
in-
machine crew.
In baseball,
They're doing it this year.
you have they have the technology to be able to automatically call balls and strikes.
Oh yeah, that one.
They just
But they're
introduced
just-
it this year.
They're not using it. They're not using it in MLB.
Yeah. Well, you can challenge a call now.
You can challenge a ball and strike now.
Yeah, they
Oh.
replay it.
Yeah.
They should
Well, that's
just use
good.
it then if
They're
gonna-
easing their way into it. I think it's just a matter of time before you have that be the case.
I think
And, you know,
that's the
they-
direction it's going to.
You know, they've tried to eliminate the human element of refereeing in both football and baseball and other sports by having certain challenges. By challenge, that's good. You want the mistaken call is not part of the game, an essential part of the game. And so, yeah, it's getting better. They're trying to make it so that the team that objectively won the game is recognized as the winner.